Hello and goedemiddag, welcome to my YouTube channel. So today I'm going to be talking about Dutch and English stereotypes and whether they are actually true or not, since I am an English girl living in the Netherlands. I've been here for 6 months, so let's see which ones are true and which ones are not so true. So the first stereotype that I have here is probably the most obvious one, which is that Dutch people are very direct. And yes, I would say this is very, very true. I would say I think it's very dependent on the person you're talking to, because in England, don't get me wrong, there are so many direct people, but as a whole in the Netherlands that I have come across, there are a lot more direct people, and they say it how it is. Even if you are an introvert in the Netherlands, then I think you still have an opinion, and a lot of people still have quite a lot of directness to them, and that's just the way that people are brought up. Some English people, I can understand it coming across as a bit of a rude thing, but I'm a Sagittarius, so I'm actually quite direct anyways, and I think it really depends on the person and how you take it. But I can see why a lot of nations and a lot of people think, oh, that's a bit rude. I really can see that. There have been a few instances where I think, you can't say that to me, you know. I think that's a bit rude, but I try not to take it to heart, and I think that's what a lot of people do that live here, that are internationals living in the Netherlands. But yes, that first one I would say is definitely true. The second one is also a very typical one, and that is that the Netherlands is very flat. And I heard this when I first met my boyfriend, and I thought, no, it can't be that flat, it just must not have many mountains, etc. But no, if you've ever taken a train journey from one side of the Netherlands to the other, you will see no hills. And I kid you not, this is so unseen and unheard of in England that I just never really went to a country that was so flat in my whole entire life. I think it's the flattest country I've ever been to. And obviously most of the Netherlands is under sea level technically, but I don't think you actually believe how flat it is until you live here, and until you're cycling everywhere and you're walking everywhere, and you just notice your surroundings around you that are just so flat. And after me living here for a while and going back to the UK, I do notice that it's actually really lovely to see hills, or slight hills even, or a mountain in England. And in England we have various mountain ranges, various ranges of hills, and I really take that for granted now that I live here, which is obviously lovely. But if you haven't been to the Netherlands yet, or you haven't seen England, just know that the topography of the area and the land of the countries is definitely completely different. So yeah, that one about the Netherlands being flat is most certainly very, very true. Are Dutch people really more natural in real life than British people? I think this is a stereotype between both countries. There is a real stereotype in the UK of English girls wearing really orange makeup, having Botox all the time and everything like that, fake everything, fake nails, fake boobs, everything. And in the Netherlands there's a stereotype of everyone being really natural, no makeup, and etc, etc. But I have to say, yes, this is correct to some extent, this is true to some extent. However, it doesn't mean that everyone in the country is like that. Yes, there are girls that wear less makeup in the Netherlands, but in the UK we also have people like this too. I don't wear that much makeup. There are some people that wear no makeup every day. There are some people that wear so much makeup every day, and don't get me wrong, some people do fit the stereotype of a British chav, a British girl. However, in the Netherlands I've also seen that too, so it's a really hard one to compare. But I do believe that Dutch people overall are more natural and embrace their natural looks and features, as to in England. So yeah, once again, this is a hard one, but I'd say there's probably more natural looking people and people that don't mess with their appearance or interfere with their natural features in the Netherlands than in the UK. So yes, I do think this one is slightly true. The bike and cycling culture in the Netherlands. This is an obvious stereotype across the globe, I believe. If anyone's heard of Amsterdam, I think people picture the canals with all the bikes lined up, just thousands of them. And yes, that is so true. And in England, we do not indeed ride as many bikes at all, even a margin of what Dutch people and you guys do use. And you guys use so many bikes. It's insane. There's more bikes in the Netherlands than people, and that is very true. So this is a massive, obvious one, yet when you're actually here, you realise how much a part of Dutch life cycling actually is. In the UK, we have good accessibility across public transport and things like that, but people don't use bikes. And I think, leading back to my other point about the Netherlands being flat, I think that's a massive factor that Dutch people have taken into account with this, because in England, if the country was flat, I do believe that more people would cycle, but I just don't think it's doable for long distances, because yeah, there are more hills and it is harder and more work to get to work without being sweaty, etc, etc. So yes, definitely there is a massive bike culture in the Netherlands. It's a very obvious one, but the car culture here is also, I would say, to a large extent similar to the UK. A lot of people take public transport as well in the UK. Maybe not cycling, but e-scooters coming into play and public transport. Especially in London now, there are more cyclists and what we call Boris bikes, which are like rentable bikes, which you just park up on the side of the road. I think you know what I mean. And a lot of people are using those. But just the road system in the UK, even in London, there are cycle lanes, but most people just hate cyclists in England. If you see a cyclist on the road, you're like, oh no. In the Netherlands, it's just normal and there's no frustration involved. So I think that is a massive difference, that the road system does not work the same at all. So yes, bike culture is definitely a true stereotype in the Netherlands. The next one is an English stereotype, and this is British tea, an afternoon tea. And yes, British people British people drink so much tea. That is one thing that I really do miss since living here, is having, I'd say, 8 cups of tea a day. And yes, this is pretty normal. Maybe not 8. A lot of people might have more, a lot of people might have less. But tea is what makes the world go round. If you have a handyman in the house that's fixing the plumbing or the electrical stuff in your house, then the first thing you do is, do you want a cuppa? Do you want a cuppa? How do you take it? Oh, I'll have a builder's tea, please. Everyone in the UK knows what a builder's tea is. So that is something massive that I notice. Another thing to do with British tea is that the British English breakfast tea here in the Netherlands does not taste the same as it does in the UK. There are so many different brands of English tea, and so many people prefer certain brands and they will never touch the other brand of tea. So even though they're the same flavour, they still have a specific difference in the brand and how the brand makes it. So that's also something to consider, because if you've tried English tea in the Netherlands, I really don't like it. It has no flavour for me, and I would never reach out to get that tea, only if I'm at someone's house and I really fancy it, but it does not taste the same. So I actually have English tea bags here in my cupboard here because I miss it so much, and yeah, that is a definite culture shock for me. Another thing to do with tea and coffee, in England, loads of people use instant coffee, so oploskoffie in Nederlands. And in the Netherlands, a lot of Dutch people think that's disgusting and awful. But if you have people around your house, so friends or family or guests, or like I say, an electrician or someone doing something in your house, if you give them an instant coffee, that is so normal. And most workplaces, say in the big cities, will probably have coffee machines now, but that's only in recent years. Before this, it was always instant coffee. In my old job in England, it was always instant coffee. So that is so normal, but in the Netherlands, everywhere, every house has a coffee machine, and I think Dutch people don't know this one because it's just such a normality. But for me, the taste of home is instant coffee and English tea. So that is a massive difference as well that I don't think a lot of people are aware about. The next one is the English pub culture and the Dutch pub culture. And this is, I would say somewhat an obvious one. Also discussing the beers as well, because if you ask for a beer here in the Netherlands, you just get a beer. In the UK, if you go to a pub and say, can I have a beer? They'll say, yeah, what type of beer? Like there's hundreds of beers that you could get, and in one pub, there's probably between 5 to 10 options of one beer, and everyone chooses a preference. Nobody would ever ask for just a beer. You'd ask for, please may I have a pint of, and then the type of beer. So if it's a bottled beer that you want, you say, can I have that bottled beer? If it's a brand like on tap, you say, can I have a pint of Heineken or a pint of Amstel? And that is also a massive difference here. The pub culture, however, obviously in the Netherlands you have filled terraces that are buzzing through the night, through the weekends, through the evenings, all the time, especially in massive cities. But the pub culture is something that I really miss, and it's something that I don't think you really notice how much it is integrated into British people's lives until you actually are there and witnessing everyone around you going for a long walk in the countryside and then coming back to a pub, having a pint, then going home. That is just a typical Sunday, or having a meal, a pub lunch, having a pint or two, then going home, having a nap, you know, whatever it is. But that is something massive, a massive difference. It really is. And in the Netherlands, it's more seen to be, oh, should we go out? Oh yeah, let's go to a terrace first. Let's do this. Don't get me wrong, there are people that go for after work drinks and enjoy a drink, but it just seems to be more of a big thing in the UK, and more integrated in everyday life. If no one knows what to do, oh, we'll just go to the pub for a drink. In the village that my dad and I live in the UK, that has, I don't even know how many citizens, but it's tiny. It has 3 pubs and 1 tiny corner shop, just to show you that there's 3 pubs in there. So think about how they must keep running through such a small village, even with that amount of people, and I don't think you'd ever see that in the Netherlands. So yes, the pub culture is definitely true in the UK, and to order a beer in England is also very specific, and if you ask for a beer in the UK, they'd say, what kind of beer? You know, they'd question you. So that is a massive difference as well. This last one, I'm going to integrate a few Dutch traditions in one, because I don't really know how else to put it. But I'm going to be talking about 50th birthdays, 25th birthdays when a baby is born in the Netherlands versus in the UK. In the UK, don't get me wrong, we really do celebrate babies being born and massive birthdays, but we don't have a set thing that people do on those events, when those events happen in your life. So in the Netherlands, you have a stork outside of a house, and you have that when a baby is born, and then often or sometimes you also have the name of the baby outside, and that is to signify a new baby being brought up into the world. With birthdays, you have, if it's a 50th, if it's a man or a woman, you have an Abraham or a Sarah, and that is for a man or a lady that's turning 50. So with a massive celebration, with a banner, so a spandoek, buiten, at the outside of your house. And for that, we have nothing. There's nothing to compare it to. And this, I guess, is in somewhat not a stereotype. That's something I've never heard of the Dutch doing before I lived here. And when I first moved here, I thought, oh, that's nice. That's a really nice idea. But turns out it's what everyone does, which it really was a culture shock for me, and something really lovely that I think English people should do. That English people, we celebrate, we do massive parties, quite often surprise parties, obviously get a 50th balloons and make it really special, but we don't get a pop doll of zoiets or anything like a spandoek outside your house. We don't do any of that. So for some of you that might not know that, that's also really interesting to know. But yeah, I think the British culture should introduce this, because we do not do this at all, and I think it's really lovely. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. That was my perspective on whether Dutch and English stereotypes are actually true. Who knows, there might be some more experiences or situations that Dutch people have or do that I have not experienced yet, but let's see how it goes. I'd love if you could follow along my journey with me and let me know what your thoughts and your perspectives are on the English and Dutch stereotypes and the cultures between them, because I'd love to hear what you think and whether you think I'm potentially wrong as well. That would be great to hear your thoughts. So thank you so much for watching. I really look forward to seeing you guys soon, and stay tuned for some more videos from me and potentially some me speaking Dutch as well. Dankjewel en fijne dag nog. Doei doeg!